Sumo! Let me.
Sumo.
And happy Monday. Let's dig right in. Sumo development update.
Yes.
Ricky.
So we wanted to talk about search, but I'll leave that for uh, 1 minute for now. From now. So basically, we're halfway through the .7 sprint. Almost. I guess tomorrow technically is halfway through, and I just wanted to mention we landed a few fixes for the KPI dashboard, where now we're not counting users that never confirmed themselves with the email. So now there's a bunch of days that we actually had 100% responded, where it used to max at like 96 or 97 some days. So that's good. So more accurate stats, and then also I landed some changes that combine some graphs. Take a look, and hopefully it's helpful. And so that leaves us with search, which we were discussing last week, and we wanted to talk about sort of what the search division is for search from the product side, and what our next steps should be based on that.
Yeah. So, and I sort of jumped right into, or I landed in the middle of a discussion. So I actually lack some of the context, but I think what we're trying to do is just like you say, to define what our priorities and what our goals are around this improving the search. We have a solution in place, a short-term solution to just sort of hard. I think the solution is kind of the hard code, just say 5 knowledge base articles and then
10 and
forum or
10.
something like. Yeah,
10.
10. Okay. And what we really want, I think, is to make sure that the best search results always, appear
Right.
on top. So
Yeah, I think that just to step in and give more context, what I talked with Chang about it on Friday also. I think that the main issue here was that at least Chang and I are not really convinced that this solution is good at all. So even paying attention to the results of them, it's pointless because we know that we want to move forward into a better solution. Because what we're doing right now, I think that we all agree that it's just a patch or like a hot fix to make sure that the solution is the previous development wasn't impacting our results in general. But we shouldn't focus too much on measuring if it's good or bad. Okay, it seems that in one case out of four is a little bit better, but the rest is not as good. So let's move forward and let's make sure that we have the actual solution that is, as we'll discuss, is just having a blended table so we can unify all the indexes. And that
So
will achieve what David said, that is basically showing the best result each time. Could be on the forum or it could be from the KB.
yeah, and in the normal
so
case, of course, the knowledge base articles would come up on top because in the normal case we would have the answer in the knowledge base. But if we don't, then we shouldn't display like 5 or 10 irrelevant knowledge base articles and then the forum, which might be the perfect, the stuff that should come up on top.
Ricky, I mean, according to the schedule, that is already, I mean, that feature is planned for the 8th sprint, right, which is starting next week. Are you asking about like specific metrics that we want to track, um, or
Well,
more
I think we should.
fine-grained specification of that, or can you clarify what exactly the question is?
Well, it wasn't really a question from me. It's more that we had last week on, I think Thursday. We were just going back and forth on IRC, and we said we should like take a step back and talk about it live on this meeting. So what the next steps. So I wasn't even aware that we were going to start working on unified search next sprint. I thought that was for later. So
Oh,
that's
you didn't
good
know
to
that?
know.
Okay, well.
Well, we talked about, I think, all right. I mean, it's on the schedule. So if you look at the schedule, I mean, it was moved up and starts in the 8th sprint. So the hot, I mean, it is a hot fix, right? So right now, displaying only 5 on top and or 10 10 KB articles on top and then forum articles. So
So
the
what you're
next
saying,
step
Clear, is
is
that the next step is to do the long-term solution, and that's happening next week. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it would
right,
be
exactly.
starting next week, right?
starting next week.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah, it is starting next week. So Bram and I had a discussion about that, about all the upcoming search features, and some of them need a lot of design work, especially the tailored search, which needs us to actually figure out what to do there on the content side before we can do anything, or before it makes sense to actually have the feature ready. So we'd have to go through the KB and figure out like what searches should have what articles, and we will do that. It's part of the plan that Susan suggested. But before we can do that, or before we have that, there is no sense to actually have that feature ready. And the one feature that doesn't need much design work up front and would give us results directly is the unification of the search results.
So, okay. And we would go back to 10 results, right? After we are happy with that, right?
Well, I mean, I don't have an answer to that.
Well, so that's why I think we're discussing this, is because we need to specify what the solution should look like, and I know that there are a lot of people who are interested in this. So I don't know if this particular meeting is how, where we're actually going to design the solution for this, because it might need more than 30 minutes. But would it be helpful if Ebai, Kadir, Ricky, and whoever else is invested in this and interested, sit down and get to the bottom of what are the main goals of improving the search? What are we trying to do? Are we trying to make sure that the #1 article is always the best? Is that sort of how do we sort of define the goal around what to do with the search results improvements, and then work our way from that to how is the solution going to look like, rather than just, because I don't even know if there is that problem statement and goal statement somewhere. I haven't seen it.
I linked actually the initial Etherpad that was stating what we were trying to achieve. And
Okay.
the thing is that it's on the wiki for this meeting. Uh, it it needs more definition, in my opinion. I mean, because the thing is that, for example, there are no references of reducing traffic to the forum, and that's what one of the things that I argued. I think it was on Thursday when we had the conversation over ISC. Is like, if we never care about the forum traffic when we were defining what was the scope and the goals of the new search, why are we freaking out right now? I mean, that's the type of thing that we should have in that document. It's like, we want to make sure that this CTR is improved, but we cannot make worse the amount of traffic that we're sending to one place or the other, if you know what I mean. Uh, and the Etherpad, it's a nice start, but it feels that it's unfinished. So maybe we can revisit that Etherpad and finish it, and decide what exactly are we trying to achieve
Yeah. So
with the
which
new search.
KPIs
We
are we
really,
tracking the success?
yeah, I think that the thing is that it's a matter of defining which KPI, but also say which direction it needs to move. Because there are some metrics there that is like, yeah, we want to track this metric, but it doesn't really say if we want to increase it or reduce it, or what the heck are we trying to achieve.
And
So we really need to be specific.
one thing I wanted to add to that, Ebi, is that search accuracy and click-through rate are two separate things. So click-through rate is going to be more of a confidence level. So how confident are they in the results that we've given them to actually click through to it, right? So you can have a very, very accurate search that returns the proper articles, but people still don't click through them. This is Matt talking right now, sorry. So I think we should track both of those, right? So what we would do during our tuning sessions is if the search result that you were looking for wasn't in the top 5, we'd call that a fail, right? But there was times where we'd have, #1 search result is the one that we're looking for, and we'd still have really low click-through rates on that. So we need to be able to track both of those.
Yeah. So and this is what you mean, Ebi, when you say figuring out the success, which KPIs we should track in order to determine to set the goal around improving the search
Yeah,
results.
right.
And also, Matt, you didn't see the discussion that we had. I think you weren't part of that discussion, but I actually said that I would like for you to be part of figuring this out because you've obviously done very similar things in the past. So,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know,
that'd be
getting
great.
that, yeah. So I mean, so again, I guess my question is, would it make sense to set up some time to discuss this, go through this, and figure out exactly what the success metrics are and what the approach should be given what we're trying to achieve?
I would say it makes a lot of sense to do that, especially in the bigger picture if you take the redesign. And I think it's on today's agenda in the metrics section. I saw reference to that about the metrics, which cover more than just search metrics. They also cover KB articles. And I think it makes sense for the whole thing, for the middle to long term to definitely do that. In the short term, specifically for that feature of unification, I think there was something that would come up anyway because it just makes no sense to separate articles like KB on top, forum at the bottom. But for the bigger picture, I think it definitely makes sense. And I would argue that actually we probably need a broad base for that because it goes beyond that, then beyond just search result
So
metrics.
should we just decide a time to discuss this? Like you're saying that this is starting next week, next sprint. So it sounds to me like we should get to the bottom of this as soon as possible.
Right. Yeah, I
So
mean,
what
one
time?
part of that is one part of that is starting next week. The bigger picture of the things that we want to track and the redesign, the actual redesign. There is still a lot of time before that is actually implemented. But the sooner we start talking about that, the better. I think the discussion has already started. Ibai, thanks. I think you started the Etherpad about the information architecture success metrics. And
Okay.
I guess
So
we
so
have.
so who should
But
be part of this?
these are two different efforts. The information architecture is one effort. It's focused on all the like the map of the site and all that stuff. And search is the way I see it is it's related, but it's pretty separate. So we should have a different set of metrics and goals for that project. And the thing is that, and again, I want to reiterate this, that should have been done before we started with the whole project. Because
Well, I
now
mean,
for
let's.
me, I think it's a little bit too late. But let's try to move forward. But for the next time, we are clear what we need to do.
Well, I think that sounds a little bit pessimistic. I hope that it's not too late. And
Okay, we lost David.
Oh no.
David?
We lost him. Hello.
He froze.
Yeah, basically, before we get him back, what I'm saying is that if we do that, I mean, if we do the exercise today, we know what are we impacting. So it's really easy to fall in the trap of saying, hey, we know that this is going to improve, so let's measure this. That type of thing that is kind of tricky.
But regarding the information architecture page, the success metrics for that, I just thought you also meant search because the KPIs to track are helpfulness of KB articles, but also search click-through rate.
It's because we are saying that the information architecture project, that the whole Susan project affects titles and stuff like that, and that will affect the CTR, or that will affect search. I didn't want to put it, but some people was really convinced that it was going to affect how search was going to perform, so I included that one. But basically, it's for the whole project that Bram is working on with Susan.
Okay. Just want to note here that it might be hard to actually keep the effects separate. So we are going to improve search. There are some things to do there. There's the tailored search coming up, the faceted search coming up, but also the predictive search. So search is going to be improved over the next few months. So it will be hard to separate the effects of the content-based parts from the technological parts, basically. So I'm not sure. We can separate those and have different success metrics for either of those parts, but I think it will be hard to figure out which one actually has an effect.
So what's the next step? When are we doing this meeting? And who should be part of it?
So, like, I mean, I suggested to actually combine those two things. Although I agree, it's search is different than the information architecture, but because there are so many things that will influence each other, might be hard to actually keep them separate. So, from my point of view, it will be good to actually have a broad base to talk about the metrics that we want to track and how success looks like for the whole project.
We could, there's already a slot for these metrics and stuff in the KB meeting on Thursday. We could just have that discussion as part of that. It's all related.
Does that work for people? Matt,
That will
would you
work
be
for
able
me.
to make that meeting?
I mean, what
The
do you,
Thursday meeting?
yeah.
That would be on Thursday, I think, on 9
Yeah.
a.m., right?
Yeah, I'll be there. I probably won't be able to join the video, but I should be able to dial in.
Okay. All right, cool. So we have a plan to create a plan. That's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Moving on then. Or any other SUMO development topics? Questions?
Just one more thing. Ricky also, just a small thing, but Ricky also added the number of questions asked to the KPI dashboard. It's overlaid on the solutions and reply lines. So if you want to check that out, that is pretty interesting. And thanks, Ricky. That's pretty nice.
No problem. Thanks to Ibai. He helped me iterate on that.
All right, cool. Okay. UX. Brom. You should unmute. This always happens. So Brom is great. we still can't hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Video.
Hello, there we go.
Now we can hear you.
Oh, now you can hear me.
Yes.
Can all of you hear me? Because, you know, it might just be Kadir.
No, I can hear you.
Okay, that's good. So when I hit the unmute button, it takes about 10 seconds for it to take effect. Okay. Okay, cool. So, okay, so UX. So I started, what is it? The paper prototyping. Actually, I started the paper prototyping a few weeks ago. And so this is sort of the first thing, that link to various product pickers that we will test. So that has variations of things that we are planning to test. So you could get an idea of how kind of potentially complex it is. If you see those icons, you know, it's not just the Firefox icons. We're trying to find out whether the OS works as a selection tool, or is it the device, right? Like if you see there, like we place like tablets and computers and phones, besides the Firefox icons, and then we have the Firefox icons themselves, and then we also have like the OS, like Windows, Mac, right? Linux, iOS, and Android and stuff like that. So we're actually going to ask people, hey, what will you get when you click on this? And then we'll pick the best names and the best representation of the product. So we will actually ask people like, hey, look at this list and tell me what would you see when you click on this. And hopefully the final solution will actually represent something that's kind of short. So there are options there that are deliberately long, like Firefox web browser for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. I think that's pretty long. And then there are also the very short one, like Firefox. So hopefully we can come up with something in the middle. But these are kind of all the product picker that we're going to test. And these are just the product picker, by the way. So I've started on the layout work, but sort of none of that is kind of ready to present. But the product picker work is pretty, at least that part of it is pretty ready to test. So like I can kind of set that aside and kind of move on to actually putting some other things. I did this in OmniGravel just so it looks cleaner. So I think I'm gonna do that as well to all my paper prototypes. So the next thing in work will be the layout and the search facets.
Hey, Bram.
Go ahead.
Bram, this is Michelle. Just on that last point, as far as product picker and naming goes, I think there is, Scooby Diver sent me a link to some copy rules that we have about product naming. So we should double check those and make sure that we're testing names that are actually allowed.
Okay, cool.
I think for the most part we're in good shape, but Firefox Mobile requires it be either Firefox for mobile or Firefox for Android, never Firefox Mobile. So I think that's probably the only place that we might have an issue, but let's double check the copy rules just to make sure you're testing valid names.
Okay, that sounds good. Could you just post the link somewhere, maybe on this wiki or somewhere?
It's in the style guide thing that we'll talk about in a little while. There's a link in that thread for tomorrow's style guide thing.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, and so the next point that I actually earlier about is that I found out that the job that I'm doing so far actually takes two people to do or something, and I've kind of been doing them all because I actually asked Susan last week, hey, because they were drafting the phase 3 document for paper prototyping, the contract on that, and then I asked her, hey, why does it cost quite a bit, right? And she's like, yeah, because it is complex and it'll require one person to actually work full-time on it. And, basically I haven't been working full-time on it because I've been kind of tackling, a little CSS and a little, little design work on this, little design work on that, all kind of related to SUMO. I've also been tackling content. But basically kind of the mandate that I was getting is that, look, you better be doing this kind of full-time or you're going to be doing it for a while, right? So you just kind of like pick your priorities or something. So
yeah, that's what it comes down to, I think. We need to be absolutely clear about the priorities for all the stuff that we need your UX expertise from. I'm assuming that I don't know if that is clear at this point. So if not, then we need to have a discussion about that to make sure that you always work on the most important stuff right now. So we can clear off those things before we start to tackle smaller things.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So some things I just did because it's a quick win, like like applying Susan's IA on the new page. I think that's a quick win, right? So that's why I do it. There are other projects though and other features that I think are pretty important, like the forum view for users, like the tools for contributors, right? So do I get to work on that, or do I get to work on the redesign or something like that, right? So currently I'm kind of doing everything. I think it's good to sort of specialize on one thing so I get one thing kind of done quicker. Yeah, so that's that. So
so the list of...
Go ahead.
Michael.
I was just going to say, isn't all of the knowledge base redesign stuff the things that is scheduled to be implemented sooner rather than the forum changes, right?
Well, actually, it kind of goes hand in hand.
Okay.
Some forum and some KB, and I thought it could go hand in hand actually, until Susan told me just how hard I needed to work and basically how kind of all the work that I did, like there just needs to be a lot more of it for it to kind of be testable and good. So, yeah.
So what priority list are you working off from? And the reason why I ask is because I'm wondering if we can take a look at that maybe together and sit down and figure out together with Kadir what we can strike out from that list.
That sounds good.
Okay.
I'm actually. Oh, go ahead.
So, so the priority list is the schedule, and it's not so much about striking things out. It's more about now that we have more information that things are going to take longer for Bram. It's more about rescheduling. But there are a lot of unknowns there. So apparently, Susan hasn't started work on the paper prototyping part on her part yet, and that is because the contract hasn't been signed. So before the contract is signed, Susan is not going to start. So what it looks like right now.
But I'm talking about the stuff that Bram is working on. It sounded like you said that would be helpful, Bram, or before Kadir jumped in. Or did I mishear you, perhaps?
Yeah, I think a priority list of just kind of one thing that I'm supposed to be working on at all times, sort of for certain period, would actually make the most sense for me, I think.
And you say that you don't have that today? That sounds contradictory to what Kadir just said.
Well, no, I had that today, but I just found out the redesign will actually need to take a full time. Like basically you need to block my time off for just redesign work,
right.
because it's just gonna take longer than it is.
So let's take this offline. Kadir, Bram, and I can sync up after this meeting, or probably no later than tomorrow, and we can figure out that we just synchronize, make sure that we have a clear priority list, and if there's anything there that we can change or alter or optimize, then we should do that. But let's have that discussion separate from this meeting, because I want to be mindful of everyone else's time here.
Hey, one thing to maybe include in that, we talked about this on Thursday in the knowledge-based meeting, was about a visual designer for the part of this. It's not, we don't have one yet.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and I didn't see a response from Jinghua about that. So I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe we can talk about that too. I think we
Jinghua,
need
Slater. Yep.
Right.
Cool.
All right. So let's take that offline. And move on, I guess. Were there? Did anyone have any questions about UX, aside from the fact that Bram works like two people right now?
He does, like, all day long. I see him, I'm like, it's like, I know it's the middle of the night there. What is going on? 4 a.m., something. He's still going.
Yeah, just for the record, Bram, we love you, so keep it up. But at the same time, we want to make sure that you don't work on the stuff that isn't on the critical path. So let's just take a closer look at that, figure out what we can do about it. All right, let's move on. Roundtable. We have lots of stuff this week. There's a bunch of questions. I don't know. Actually, the first few questions, I don't know who asked. Then there's a bunch of questions from SatDav. I added some preliminary answers already to hopefully speed the discussion up a little bit, but I haven't responded to all of the questions. So the first question is, can we get an update on the Army of Awesome Twitter account, the Firefox Help account? Because some people have been asking if we can use that to do support. First of all, I don't know who I've asked about that, but I may have been missing a thread in the contributor forum where it was asked. But Michael, it sounds like you want to break in here.
Well, I was just going to say, wasn't the whole thing of the Army of Awesome thing was so that we didn't need that account. You just use your own. It's how it's designed to work.
Well, yeah, and that's right. And there are some pros and cons of doing. I think from a user point of view, it might be a benefit to see that it's from Firefox Help, because they might make it feel more official. And so I know that we discussed this in the past, whether or not it would make sense to have something like that in addition to Army of Awesome. Or maybe give some people, trusted contributors, the ability to use that account, or log into that account. But there are downsides too, and I think Kadir articulated very well some of the downsides, such as the inability to see who is actually helping, because all of a sudden a lot of people might be using the same account. so what we discussed this just before the meeting and agreed that Madalena would take a closer look at this, evaluate, and then get back with a more thoughtful answer than the one that I just put into the wiki page right now. Which, my answer is just let's look into that. But Madalena will drive that and get back to whoever asked this question. I guess you can figure that out from the history. But it should probably be a discussion in the contributor forum to make sure that people can see it. All right, so let's move on. Can we get an update on the live chat situation? So I provided a very preliminary, kind of rough response, but the nothing really has changed since last time we discussed this. We put it on hold because it's not on the critical path. What we're focused on right now is the self-service parts, the taxonomy work, the UX, the redesign, and the search improvements. And also, for community user-to-user support, we're focusing on the forum. And we set specific goals this year to reach 100%, which it sounds like we're almost close to reaching, which is fantastic news. So the deal with live chat is not changed since last time we evaluated it. I don't know if anyone else has any additional thoughts to add to the answer.
The new live chat maybe could be a Firefox clinic in your town.
Yeah. I also know that there were some people who wanted to sort of do something separate, like a separate community-powered experiment using IRC, but I don't know if anything came out of that. So I'm unsure of if that was just abandoned. So to whoever asked this question, if you don't feel like this answer is sufficient, get back and let us know. Okay, next question was, can contributors get our own support -mozilla.org email address or a forward to our dedicated Firefox support one? Well, I'm not actually sure what that means, to be honest. Can anyone help me with this?
Well, this question has come up several times. It basically is about people, some contributors, wanting official email addresses, and I told them several times that they're not supposed to give out their personal email address anywhere. Yeah, so this is not something that we can do anyway. If at all, this would have to be project-wide. Every contributor, Mozilla contributor, should be able to get a email address, Mozilla org email address or something.
But what I'm trying to figure out is not the solution, but I'm trying to figure out what the problem is. Like, why is using the personal email address a problem in the first place?
They shouldn't even be
because
doing
you never you never exposed that anyway. So I don't understand why you would.
No, that's what I meant. People are giving out their own email addresses to help personally by email, and I told contributors that that is not how it works. So that is the only.
You mean that people in the forum, they provide us answers? You can send me an email to my private email address? Are people actually saying that?
No.
People do that actually, but usually I just ping them and tell them that they can do they can help a lot more if they just do it on the forums. That's what I do.
Okay, because to me it sounds to me like I know that SatDav is proposing a solution here, but it sounds more like I'd like to try to get to the bottom of the kind of the problem that we're trying to solve with this before even entering that discussion. It might be that there are valid reasons for having official email addresses, but there's no. I'll be honest. That would be a complicated thing, and it would involve IT, legal. It would be a lot of stuff that would need to happen for us to just start to give out email addresses to people. So for now, I'd say let's focus on the problem. So SatDav, again, if you have more background on why this would be important, let's talk about it. You know where to find me and everyone else on the team.
I think it's just I've had this request also, and I think other projects, other open source projects do it. So maybe it's just sort of a familiar thing to contributors that they could get an @mozilla.org email address as a contributor. So I think other projects do it, but if we don't, I think it's just a question that's out there. So thanks for this answer.
Yeah,
there are some. By the way, there are some efforts going on to actually do that, but it's as far as I know, it's slow moving.
Yeah, there's.
They are looking at it. Okay.
The Mozillians.org.
Well, there's been somewhere, I forget which list, there's been a conversation that I've followed for at least a year about switching everybody to a .org email address and opening that up to contributors.
Yeah, that has been discussed before. Yeah. That I remember. But so I guess my answer to that would be, I wouldn't want SUMO to be the only project to do that. Like it should be something that is project wide. But that shouldn't stop us from figuring out what the actual underlying problem is here for SUMO, so we can figure that out. If it's just a motivation thing, then it's a separate thing from a privacy issue, which is what sounds to be the issue if I read the question. So again, please, Santa, get back to us with more background. Let's discuss it. But just so you know, I don't think that just having SUMO offer those email addresses isn't really a solution. It should happen on a higher level, if that's something that Mozilla wants to do. Okay, so next, not a question, statement. IRC meeting. Next SUMO meeting. IRC meeting will be on May 10th. Are these meetings? Who is running these meetings?
Satav.
It's Satav.
Satav.
Oh, I see. And what are the topics of that?
There should be an agenda somewhere. Usually.
Yeah, there's a post on the contributors forum about it, with the notes from the last 2 meetings, and then we'll put the agenda for the May 10th meeting there also.
Okay. So if someone could add the agenda to the roundtable section, that would be helpful.
Yep.
So we can increase the likeliness of people seeing it. And for me to see it in the first place. All right. Last question. Can we get a section for the UK version of English, as it's a bit different from the US version? I guess this question is about getting knowledge base articles written in UK English. I provided my answer bluntly right there, that I don't think that is something that we should focus on, to be honest. I think that the difference is not big enough to warrant the tremendous, to use an appropriate word, amount of work that would be required to translate all those articles, unless you develop some sort of technical solution that automatically switches, between the UK and the US spelling. But I would say this should be, just like any other thing, it should be driven by demand. So if there's a demand, if there's an actual community around UK English, I might want to do it. But it's honestly, I would say, if we can find a community that can spend that time, that kind of effort, I'd rather have them work on the US articles, because that would have such a high impact in comparison.
You could propose keywords for right now, for synonyms for
oh yeah,
UK
that's
words,
a different thing,
right? Like favorites and favorites, the 2 different spelling kind of things. So that would be helpful. Yeah. Or also it'd probably just be more bang for your buck to just improve an article.
I mean, and that's something that I know Matt mentioned before, also with the search optimization, to make sure that we have all the spelling, even incorrect spellings, not just UK spelling.
That's right. Incorrect spellings too.
Right. UK spelling is correct after all, but it's just different. All right. So yeah. Oh, so Satav, if that's what you meant, then I totally agree. We should absolutely do that. Okay. That was actually the last question. Any other roundtable topics people want to discuss? No? All right. Let's move on then. Firefox status update. Do we have anything?
Sorry. There's not much. Yeah, I'm prepping a lot of stuff for Firefox 12 right now with Alex. So I'm mostly working on that right now.
Okay.
And, yep.
That's it?
Yep.
Any questions? Not a lot of basis for questions there. All right.
I guess I should say that while Ching is out of town, I'm going to.
I
Michelle,
cannot
can you
hear
speak
what
up a
you're
little
saying,
bit?
Michelle.
You're very, very quiet. Maybe the microphone level settings or something?
Sorry. Is this better?
That's a
Yep.
little better. Yeah.
I will just talk loud. Yeah, so when Chang's out of town for Firefox 12, I'll be standing in for him and I'll be calling on a few of you to help with feedback gathering for Firefox 12 while he's gone. So just to let you know, that it will be me. I don't have Cheng's investigative skills, but I'm sure all of us working together can highlight anything that happens to show up for 12. He thinks it'll be a pretty mellow release, but we have a lot of weird EOL stuff happening with 3.6 and
Windows 2000.
OSs, yeah. So and XP service packs. So I'll be leading that coordination effort.
Do you know what we're going to do for those releases, like where we have end of life?
Yeah.
Like, are we going to show people something? Are they going to go
Yes.
to Sumo for it or
Yes
anything?
and yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, if you want the short story, it's depending on what you're end-of-lifing from and what you're end-of-lifing to. If you're end-of-lifing from 3.6 to Firefox 12 and you are on a operating system that supports Firefox 12, you will just be moved. You will first get a prompt saying, warning you that you'll be moved, and that has a link to Sumo, and then you'll get a prompt that says, hey, we're going to move you soon, and just another kind of warning, and then you'll move like it was a non-major update.
But that's not happening till 13. You won't get moved, and you'll get moved from 3.6
Yeah,
to
you can
13.
move it at the very end of the Firefox 12 cycle.
Yeah.
So we should brace ourselves for that?
Yes. That's why I kind of gave Michelle a bit of warning on this, because you'll get warnings. We get 2 warnings, and then you'll be moved. And I'll be around for when things get moved and we get a ton of traffic. But even before that, warnings are going to be scary, and people are going to get concerned about it. And then for the end-of-lifing of the operating systems, that doesn't actually happen until 13. So those people who move to Firefox 12 and are Windows XP SP1 or Windows 2000, they're going to not be able to move to Firefox 13, and they will be asked to move to Opera.
Or upgrade Windows.
Or upgrade Windows, or some other thing like that.
And so we have articles for all this, but so that the thing is like you're not cut off until 13, but warnings will start happening on the 24th, April 24th, and those things all link to Sumo articles.
Yeah. Oh, they moved them back? I thought they were going to start like 2 weeks before then. But, oh well, I might have missed that date.
I don't know. Last I looked, it was the 24th, I thought, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Let me check. But I will look into when the warnings start.
So just don't assume, I mean, after Ching's gone, don't assume that I know anything. If you see something that seems at all surprising or like something that should be reported, send it to me. Do not assume I'm aware of it. Because we'll also presumably have mobile beta also that week.
That's right.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so I mean, everyone, please just keep an extra eye on the forum, our different channels, and help Michelle, help Cheng. While Cheng soaks up the rays of the Hawaiian sun.
I will be Hawaiian, just, I will not have your head.
Oh my God, we're not jealous.
No, not at all.
But I will drink Mai Tais in your honor.
I'll do the same. All right. Okay. Let's try to find my way back to the agenda. Metrics. Kadir.
Yeah, so there is a question there whether we should actually, or whether we still need the Google Doc metric. And I sent an email to the team, and I would like to also post that to the forum very soon. And basically, I'm trying to figure out whether we still need it. Like if there is anything you think isn't captured yet by the KPI dashboard and should be monitored at all times, you please give feedback on that so we can decide whether we need to keep that or not. Just to reiterate something, any data on the Google or any category on the Google Doc metrics document, if we need that, we can always get that on demand. So there is no issue with that. So only data that you need to look at all times. If you have any feedback on that.
I mean, I've been maintaining it, but if you're telling me you're not using it, then I should stop maintaining it, right?
Well, I mean, so we had, just to be clear, we had this discussion, I don't know if it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, but we did have this exact discussion. And what we agreed on was that everyone, if I'm not mistakenly, you know, if I remember correctly here, I think that what we decided was that everyone were to take a look at that and decide and determine if there was anything there that you still need for your day-to-day monitoring, and if or week to week, and if not, and you would let Kadir know. That was what we said.
Yeah,
So,
that is what we said. It's just that I wanted to formalize that, like maybe like having an Etherpad is easier for people to actually give feedback on that, and just remind everyone to look at that again.
My question here is like, what's the goal of this? Is like to instrument these metrics or to create yet another dashboard?
The goal is rather to remove a dashboard, I think. Well, I mean, remove redundant work for stuff that we don't monitor. So we have a list of KPIs. We have a list of the metrics that we actually do care about. And so the question is, can we what do we do with the stuff that we tracked in the past? Do we still need to do that, or can we just stop doing it to save time? I'm surprised that no one remembers this discussion, because even I, with my vague and miserable memory, remember us having this discussion. But
and Cheng, to clarify, we would still need access to the data, because if we figure out something, if we look at the KPI and there's something wrong or strange, we would still need to we still need to be able to dig deeper.
Right. But there's a huge difference between me keeping up the part so that you can do it really quickly, and my just looking at data for myself or for you guys on demand.
Right. So that is what this is about, figuring out if we still need that, if we still need the Google Docs document or any metric on that.
Right.
So that is
if I need to keep up the script, like the script is breaking for bits for Michelle, and I'm fixing the bits for her. But if bits of things that you're doing are breaking too, I'm not sure if I should be putting effort into fixing them if you never use that script.
Exactly. This is what that is about. Okay. Yeah. So please give feedback on that, so we can actually move forward, like in the next 1 to 2 weeks. The next question I see here is: do we still need? No, sorry. Do we? Oh, I mixed up the order here. The question was: do we all agree on the metrics to track and the architecture changes? And I think this is something we talked about earlier, and we'll have a meeting. And I think, yes?
Is it just me, or is Kadir breaking off?
He's breaking off.
Yeah, he's breaking off.
Yeah, it seems like I'm breaking off. Like, give me a second to actually log out and log in again.
All right. He's more quiet when he's not in the meeting.
Go figure.
Yeah, I just wanted to share my wisdom. Maybe we can talk about something else in the meantime. Community. So Madeline and Rosanna are attending Moscamp Latin America next weekend.
Yay!
Do you guys want to give us an update on where you're at